You get all soaking wet. But Rupe, I'll see you Friday.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Kiwanians in person. Welcome, Kiwanians on Zoom. Welcome, guests. My name is Michael Bracta. I have the pleasure of serving as president of one of the largest of the 15,000 Kiwanis clubs worldwide. That's right, guests. This is one of the largest of the Kiwanis clubs worldwide. I'm pretty impressed with that myself. Stay with me. I have a few opening remarks. The most important opening remarks have to do with the 3 cards that are being passed around today. 2 cards that are being passed around today. One is for past President Sherry Dillon. She's currently in a place we call Struggle Street, and she would appreciate you signing that card and helping her with that journey. Same for former board member Leanne Lincolnhofer, also driving down the Struggle Street. She would appreciate you lifting her up with a nice card. So please do that, will you? And speaking of nice things, as cold as it is, isn't it nice to be in the warmest place in Roanoke at the moment? That's us. Let's see, one more thing, and then you'll get to do the introspection and the pledge. Fred is working his way up here. So last Monday, in the snow, 40 brave, civic-minded people, half of which were from this club, half of which were from community-based organizations, responded to Dr. Sherry Hartman's request to go clean up the Hortons Branch watershed and the Lansdowne neighborhood. Thank you, all of you, for that. Let's move on with the introspection.
Our introspection today is short, 3 sentences long, so I want you to pay attention. Listen up. Here we go. Number 1. We like to think that our attitudes are affected by what people do and say. Get that? Our attitudes affected by what other people say to us. But in reality, it's what we say to ourselves that has the greatest impact on how we present ourselves to the world. So, the lesson is, be careful what you say to yourself.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. So Peter's on his way up here to introduce the guests today, and it's just wonderful to see so many new faces in our meeting room. Peter.
I believe this may set a record. We have 25 guests at the meeting.
Hey.
Hard to believe, hard to believe. All right, I'm going to start with the Action Club members who are here visiting with us today and ask them to stand up along with their hosts, who are Randy Myers and Briggs. Let me start with John and Robin Fouts, who are standing, and Robbie Hairston, and Jeff Schweiger, and JJ Harper. All guests from the Action Club. Thank you all for joining. Is there somebody else from the Action Club? Okay, thank you so much. Now going on to other guests with us. Starting with the first one to sign in was Mike's lovely wife, Beth Obrachta, who is back here. Guest of course, Mike. Other guests are Ted Cable, who is a guest of Ryan LaFountain. Ted's right up here, and Catherine Cable, who is a guest of Joe Cobb, and she's right over here. Other guests of Joe Cobb, and there are a number, are Rachel Hopkins with CHIP. Where's Rachel? Where's Rachel? Oh, here. Would you stand up, please? Thank you. Karen McNally with Presbyterian Community Center is here. Jonathan Pate from the YMCA is here. Now we're switching. Sarah Logan is here with Gary Durr. Where's Sarah? Right over here. Sarah, welcome. Taylor Medley from Carillion Clinic is here with Ken Briggs. Here. Victor Basham is here with Carillion Clinic, also guest of Joe. Where's Victor Basham? Okay, thank you. Valerie Keppel from Carillion Clinic, next to him, is also a guest of Joe. Now, different Joe, this is Joe Gaither's guest, is Kendrick Golston. Thank you, Kendrick. Tommy Page is here with Joe Cobb. Candace, or let me drop it. Over here. Candace Kess with Kids Soar is a guest of Gary Durr. Darnell Wood of Hill Street Baptist Church is a guest of Joe Cobb. Scott Booth, who was last week's speaker, Chief of Police, is here. Joe Cobb. Mike Heller with Roanoke Quaker Meeting over here is a guest of Joe Cobb. Jennifer Boswell with Jennifer Boswell. Are you with Roanoke? Oh, Police Department also is a guest. This is Roanoke. Oh, PD. I thought she was the post office. No. Okay. She's a guest of Joe Cobb. Dan Bryant with Sports Creative is here. Dan over here, guest of Joe Cobb. Kristen Roby of Carillion Clinic, another guest of Joe Cobb. And did I miss anybody who is a guest who did not sign in? I don't think so. All right, come on. Back again.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Now, the members of this club know what's going to happen next, but the guests don't. So let me explain. As president, I stand up here every week and give a motivational talk. It's usually quite short and I hope inspirational. And the talk is always about the same subject, outreach. Our interest is having more people like you, our guests, learn more about our club. After all, it is a large, successful club. So, toward that end, I want to pause for a moment. Have you look at the screen. I want to pause for a moment. And I want us to celebrate the 4 club members who have already received outreach awards. Already received them. First, you'll see Greg Lineberger there, who employed a new twist with our October Bocce event when he increased the non-member participation in that event by offering some discounts. Thank you, Greg. Then came Sherry Harton, who, as far as I'm concerned, can be titled the Outreach Queen. She held a nature park cleanup, not just this past Monday, but previously, where more than half of the volunteers for that cleanup were from outside our club. Thank you for that outreach, Sherry. Next up was Bart Wilner. Bart Wilner, in just the space of a few months, is responsible for sponsoring 2 new club members. That's the face of outreach that I want to see. Powerful stuff. And most recently, it was Harry Zuloff. Harry's taken over responsibility for our membership committee. He's ratcheted that up to the next level already. There are things going on behind the scenes that are going to pay big dividends. Thank you, Harry. Now, your turn is to think for a moment, just think for a moment, what these outreach awardees have in common. What do they have in common? That's enough thinking. Let's recognize that all 4 of these people have taken initiative and followed through with action. initiative, and action. They've built upon the past to implement things that are going to set us up for the future. They've instituted a little bit of change in what and how we operate in this club. So I'm hoping by example, you'll be inspired to follow in their footsteps. I sure am inspired. Thank you all very much. So, next up on our agenda is the presentation of a permanent badge. The club member who's scheduled to receive that badge is in the room today, so I'm going to hold off on that till another Wednesday.
She is on Zoom though.
She is on Zoom. I prefer to do it in person. It's Lloyd Baker Lloyd. We're glad she's tuned in on Zoom, but there's no reason we can't do that in person when she's here in the near future. So that leads us up to grant presentations. Bob Haberman, who chairs our grant committee, is going to go up here, and he's going to do what you need to pay attention to, which is give away money. Okay? This is why our club exists. Our club exists to raise funds and do things for the betterment of our community. And today we're going to do that with two deserving organizations. Thank you, Bob. If I can move this. Yes.
Good afternoon, and thank you, President Mike. We have two grants today. The first is from Seoul, and Kendrick and Coach, would you please come forward? Coach is going to tell us a little bit about the organization, and Mr. Golson is going to tell us a little bit about what they are going to do with the grant money. Coach.
Thank you so much, Bob, President Mike, the Kiwanians. It's my pleasure today to speak on behalf of the Soul Foundation. Soul is students of an omnipotent, omnipresent, unloving, unchanging love. That's what Soul stands for. And it's Kendrick Golston's organization that he started several years ago. And I just want to give you some bullet points on what this young man has done. He's having a tremendous impact in our community with young people. And bullet points. He started an MVP at Lucy Addison Middle School, focuses on leadership, college readiness, life skills, career options. They meet once a week. Number two, taking an annual field trip. Technology messed up. Okay, annual field trip to Washington, D.C. this year to visit national museums to learn about history of our country. Number three, took college visitors to Tech in Virginia Western to their science fairs, technology centers. Number four, he started their first teen summit group for teens to discuss the issues of life, dealing with spirit, mind, and body development. And number five, mentoring program where we partner with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and he is the director of the North System Fellowship of Christian Athletes in the Valley to mentor students with behavioral issues, emotional traumas, and create a space of hope and growth for them. And number six, team with Virginia Tech to start a two-day summer workshop for high school students to learn about college admissions, life skills, training, and careers. This is a tremendous young man. And he's coaching the girls basketball team at Addison this year. And they're 5-1. The only game they lost I went to, so I'm trying to stay away from that game. So he's a tremendous young man, and he's training to be a deacon. He'll be a deacon soon at our church at Shiloh. So proud of him. Kendrick Golson. Give him a hand if you will.
I'll be brief as possible. I really, I know I only had a couple of minutes, but I really wish I could have showed you exactly where every dollar of this money goes. Some of you work with me in this program, and no matter what the amount is, I try to use every dollar that's significant to go into it. If you can see what a lot of these kids kind of go through and the things that we bring in, even something like barbers to cut their hair once a week. We do things where we maybe have to buy shoes or clothing for them, like for our girls basketball team. Some of us use to just give them supplies so they can play and you can see what happens when you. It means a lot. I get emotional thinking about it because I know you guys give so much money to so many people, but you really don't see the impact that it has. The things that go around year round when you do it. So one of the things I was trying to figure out, like my own funding for a lot of this, I come out of my own pocket through my own investments, and me and my wife, our own income to do it. So when this comes in, it helps relieve us some. And this year with us taking this field trip to DC, SOUL's an educational leadership. We try to teach life skills. We try to teach career readiness, career options, and academic enhancement. So we always pushing them beyond high school. The conversation is don't think now, what about after high school? It forces them to think years down the road. And that's what we always prep them for. So with this funding that I'm getting now, we're doing our trip to DC where we're going to visit the Native American Museum. We'll try to put the African American Museum, Native Museum, and Holocaust in 7 hours. So y'all pray for me if we can get that in. And then we kind of come back, and then they have to come back and do a project about that particular thing. They have to pick out a leader from one of each of those places and tell the rest of the group about them and how is it practical to use those skills today in that time. And whatever funding we have left, we try to use for the summer when we do our 2-day readiness, where we bring in mentors and business owners, people from college admission, and we teach about how do I get in college? If I'm not ready for college, how do I prepare for career after high school, and what skills do I need to do both? So it's gonna help. It's gonna help a lot. It's kind of like my mom will have to make $1 out of 15 cents when I'm trying to do it, but however I need to squeeze it and press it, it's gonna help us tremendously to get this done. So I thank you for being a part of what we're trying to do. You all guys, even though your body's not there, your spirit and your money is there, and that helps us a lot. So one day maybe I'll give Coach Joe a video to show you guys exactly how it is improving in their lives, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Grab the photo.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Where's the photo?
Right
Oh, there it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good job. Our second grant today goes to Kids Soar, excuse me. And Candace, would you come up, please? And Gary, Gary Derrick's going to tell us a little bit about the organization, and then Ms. Hess is going to tell us a little bit about what they plan to do with the money. All right, Gary.
Kids Soar was formerly Community Action Program. And for 34 years, they have believed that every child should be able to read. And a child who's 8 years old, if they don't read at the 3rd grade level, their chances of breaking the poverty cycle is pretty slim. In fact, it's like 72% can't break it. So it's very important that these kids learn how to read at the 3rd grade level at 8 years old. So that's what Kids Soar does. They also involve their parents, and it's an after-school program where different people read to them, and they have dinner, and they do their homework and other fun activities. So it's my pleasure to introduce Candace Hess, Executive Director of Kids Soar.
Thank you so much. We're very honored to receive this grant. It has been quite a year for us this year. As Gary says, we've been around for 34 years, and we have 2 locations downtown and at the Villages of Lincoln. And this year, the building we were in downtown has been sold. And so we are in the process of actually moving to Windsor Hills. And so we will still have our 2 locations, but we will just be in another area of the city. And with this grant money that you have awarded to us, it's going to allow us to buy STEAM projects that our families can do on family night, parents and children, because one of the things we work with is family engagement. And we try to find different ways that the children and the parents can do things together. So this grant will allow us to buy these activity kits. It's like for the 3 little pigs, and they have to build their houses. And so the parents and the children have to work together to build it so it's engineeringly sound. And there's other models, but that's one of the ones that we'll be using. And we try to have our family nights at least 3 times a month. And so this will just be one of those things we incorporate into the next year. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well done, and thank you to the members of this club for all the work you've collectively done to allow us to issue these grants. It's important work. A couple of quick announcements now, and then we'll get into the practice of bragging. So all you braggarts, get ready. The Environment Committee, under our leadership of Dave Perry, met this past Monday in person. That committee hasn't met in person in years. Dave, thank you for doing that. You've now got a bunch of projects and a bunch of project leaders that are voluntold what to do. And we appreciate the fact you're going to move out on that. Membership Committee, Harry Zuloff, I mentioned his name earlier, something about an outreach award. Membership Committee meets tomorrow in person. Prayer Breakfast Committee, Sherry Hartman and David Hartman chair that committee. Each year we have a prayer breakfast, and they're beginning the planning for that. So they're meeting this Friday on Zoom. Speaking of money, the foundation, Kiwanis Foundation, is our 501c3 nonprofit arm. They operate independently. They collect money and they invest the money, and then some of the investment proceeds get returned to our club. See previous comment about giving out grants. Well, it's their annual appeal. Every club member has received a letter providing them the opportunity to donate. By the way, the guests in the room can donate to that too, you know. Book Club Committee. Dr. David Hartman is chairing a new committee in our club. They're meeting in person at the end of the month at South County Library at 5:30. And then later that same evening, there's a webinar I encourage you to attend on DEIBA. All that information is listed in your bulletin and in the newsletter. And where else? On the website. Thank you. All you braggarts should be up here ready to brag right now. While they're coming up, here's what happens, guests. For 30 seconds and a couple bucks, you can come up here and brag on any subject you want that's child friendly. You know what I mean? And when you donate your money, it goes to that foundation I was just talking about. So who's coming up? Really? Now, Matt, you were just up here bragging about a week ago.
I was.
I'm glad to see you back. Come on up.
2008 was a very miserable year for my favorite football team, the Detroit Lions. We went 0-16. In 1991, I was 7 years old when this, the last time the Lions actually won a playoff game. And this past Sunday, by a score of 24-23, the Lions beat the Los Angeles Rams, breaking the curse and the 32 years of misery. So, I may be up here every week for every game they win, or this might stop.
Let's hope not.
Reeve Kessler, in the absence of other braggers today, I'll fill up a minute or so by bragging on the Patrick Henry Key Club, and a club for which I serve as the Kiwanis advisor. These young people are smart. As one example, they were able to decide that they would be more comfortable doing a Martin Luther King Day service project if they were indoors rather than outdoors. But they decided, I joined them on Monday,
at the Ram House, where they were energetic and cut up an enormous mountain of potatoes with extremely large knives without anyone needing any of my professional services. They did a variety of other things there. This is mostly just to keep in your minds that our key clubs are part of the Kiwanis family. We have aligned goals, and they are out there doing the same sorts of things that we do to make things better for a variety of people throughout the valley. Mm-hmm.
Sherry Hartman here. Well, Reef, I think we got maybe one of your Patrick Henry Key Club members at the cleanup. I wanted to use my brag time to brag on those folks who did brave the weather and come out on Monday, joining together, as Mike said, with so many other volunteers. I want to give a shout out to Betsy Bohannon and her husband, Chris Kane. Thank you so much. Cynthia Gray. The Action Club showed up big time, so thank you for being here today to be recognized. John and Robin Faust. Robin is president of the Action Club. Robert Hairston, JJ Harper, Jeffrey Swigert, thank you all for coming out. We had Joe Gaither there and others from Shiloh Baptist Church, Joe Lemmer, Randy Myers, Robin and Alex Barge. Alex, I think, brought his whole family to help us out. Well done. And then we had Don Witt there. Erica Moore from the Fleming Key Club. Key Club was well represented, had a couple of Fleming students there. And we had as well John Pendleton with the Northside Key Club was represented. And Ken Briggs was there. I hope I haven't missed it. John Montgomery, you were there too. John is on my list. If you signed in, hopefully I called out your name. Thank you all so much. And Michael Brata, our president. I don't know if he signed in, but he was definitely there and welcomed everybody so graciously to the event. Okay, who else? Anybody else? Thank you all so much.
I'll speak to Mike about protocol.
Mike McAvoy, everybody. And I think some of you all know that I grew up in Florida, specifically Tampa. So I've been a lifelong Bucks fan. Yes, very good. That was not planned, by the way. And they actually won their playoff game this weekend too, even though they were underdogs. And just so happens they will be playing the Lions Saturday night. So the only thing I can guarantee, because again, if you follow the Bucks over the years, they've had some success lately, but for many years we were dismal, and I think still have the NFL record for most consecutive losses in a row. But the only thing I can guarantee is one of the two of us will be up here next week.
Thank you, braggarts. Now, before I turn the microphone over to Bill Bestich, who's going to introduce our speaker, I need to do a bit of pandering, and I need you to help me out. I'm not above pandering. So my wife is here today. And my life is going to be a whole lot better when I get home if you give her a big round of applause. Thank you so much. I should probably brag or put money in the pot for that. Bill, why don't you come up and do the introductions?
I really don't know if putting her on the spot like that's gonna make life better or worse, but he'll find out. The Reverend Joe Cobb believes that our greatest calling as human beings is to love one another by honoring and celebrating what makes us unique and by discovering what we can create together. This calling both inspires and informs his devotion to public service in the city of Roanoke, the region, and around the world. Joe is a member of Roanoke City Council, currently serving his second two-year term as vice mayor. He also works as chaplain at Hermitage Roanoke, a senior living community in Northwest Roanoke. A native of Wichita, Kansas, Joe has been a resident of Roanoke since 2001, where he lives with his husband, James, and their two children, Jenny and JJ, both students at James Madison Middle School.
Their family also includes Emma Gwynn and her husband Connor and his son Taylor. Joe has 2 grandchildren, Harper Jane and William Brenly Gwynn. Just to give you some idea of how busy he really is, Joe is chair of the Council of Community Services Board of Director and chair of the City of Roanoke Gun Violence Prevention Commission, which we'll hear more about today. He's vice chair of the City of Roanoke Audit Committee, president of the Greater Roanoke Transit Company Board that operates our Valley Metro Transit System, vice chair of the City Council Personnel Committee, member of the City Council's Legislative Committee, and is a member of the Board of Directors of Equality Virginia, Roanoke Valley Sister Cities, the TAP This Valley Works Board of Commissioners, and the Clean Valley Council. He has a Master of Divinity degree from Perkins School of Theology in Dallas and a Bachelor of Philosophy degree at Columbia from Southwestern College in Winfield, Kansas. He recently completed his Doctor of Ministry degree at Columbia Theological Seminary in Decatur, Georgia. His doctoral thesis, Honoring Their Breaths When the Bones of Our Ancestors Breathe Forth Reparation and Justice, will be available at the Gainsborough Branch Library later this month. Please join me in welcoming to our podium the Honorable Reverend Dr. Joseph L. Cobb, or as I prefer, my friend Joe.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you, and I'm glad to be back at Kiwanis, and it's always exciting to hear everything that you all are investing in the community. Kiwanis is also the home of 2 recently announced Citizens of the Year, which you know, Sherry Hartman and most recently Rupert Cutler. You might want to research the whole list of Citizens of the Year and see how many of them have belonged to Kiwanis. That may be a gateway, I don't know. But I am really glad to be with you here today to talk about a very important topic. I have a lot to share with you today, so I'm going to try and boogie through it. I know that our president has set a timer somewhere for me to pay attention to. But I want to begin today by saying that gun violence is an epidemic that is devastating not only to our city, but to our nation. And we continue to see an increase in incidents of gun violence over the years, and we have seen a significant increase in Roanoke. I want to note a couple of things. In the last 2 years, we have seen a significant decrease in the number of youth-related incidents of gun violence. And I truly believe that's because of the efforts of organizations in our city that I'm going to tell you about today, and our comprehensive approach to working with youth and their families. Where we have seen an increase is in adult gun violence incidents and homicides, where adults are choosing to work out their conflict by shooting each other. That's a big shift. And so as a city, we're continuing to find ways, working with our police department, with our sheriff's department, with all of our organizations to try and address that. And we've committed, along with, as Chief Booth mentioned last week, working toward a 10% reduction, not only of violent crime, which we're already seeing a reduction in, but of gun violence in our city over the next 5 years. I want to begin by telling you a little bit about my experience with gun violence. When I first moved to, actually when I was visiting Roanoke in 2001, I had recently come out professionally and personally as a gay man. I was looking at places where I could live and be open and received in my authenticity. And when I began visiting Roanoke in 2001, I went to a Pride event at the Unitarian Church, and it was on the 1-year anniversary of the Backstreet Cafe shootings. I don't know how many of you remember the Backstreet Cafe shootings, but a man by the name of Ronald Gay had it out for gay people. He arrived in Roanoke on a Greyhound bus. He went into Corned Beef and Company, flashed a gun, and said, "I'm going to kill some gays." They called the Park Dance Club to warn them. They did not think to warn Backstreet Cafe, which was also a gathering for many people. It was a safe place. He went in, saw that the clientele he presumed to be gay, and he opened fire. He killed one person, Danny Overstreet, and he injured 6 others. There was also the traumatic impact of those who were in the cafe that night, and many of whom still live in our city and are greatly affected by that. So I came to Roanoke 1 year after that, and I thought to myself, can I call this place home? Can I feel safe here? And what I heard and what I have seen through the years, even with the ups and downs of violence in our community, is a city that does not condone violence, that really believes we can bring forward our better angels and find ways to help restore love, honor, value, and trust in people's lives. Because it's when people experience brokenness and a lack of hope that they turn to pathways of violence. On July 1st of 2019, I was sitting in my office at Hermitage, Roanoke, and I received a phone call from my best friend since seminary, Reverend Tom Stevenson. And I could hear that there was something not right in his voice. He called me to tell me that that morning they had found their son, Kyle Thomas, who had legally purchased a gun and taken his life. Kyle was 19 years old. In 2016, I was on a sabbatical. I happened to be in New Mexico at the time when I heard the horrific news of the mass shooting of individuals at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. Again, a very targeted attack by someone who had legally purchased weapons. Took out 40 lives. In the summer of 2019, one of many prayer vigils were taking place in our community because of incidents of gun violence. And this particular gathering was on the Melrose basketball court. And as we were beginning, I had the honor of meeting Rita Joyce, Renee Taylor, and Tracy Penn, 3 women who in 2006 founded an organization called Fed Up. They had all experienced the direct impact of losing a loved one to gun violence, and they dedicated their lives to helping families who experienced violence. And we sat together for probably about an hour during that vigil and afterwards, just talking with each other and listening to each other's stories. And I was so moved by their passion and their commitment to addressing gun violence in our community, by finding a way through their own pain to bring healing and hope. In our city, we have 7 priorities. It's very clear to us that community safety is one of those, and all of us have to ask the question of ourselves and of our community, what does that safety look like and what does it feel like? Because it will look and feel different for every single one of us. And all it takes is one moment for any of us to feel vulnerable and less safe. So we have to make a commitment together as a community to figure out not only what that looks like, but how we can work with each other to ensure that our city and our region is a safe place to live. So over the course of these last 4 years, beginning with the work of the Task Force to Reduce Gun Violence and now the Gun Violence Prevention Commission, the city has worked really hard to create a framework approach to this, including prevention, intervention, and response. And I'm going to include justice as that's really the 4th thing, but it's also a part of our response efforts in the city. So I want to introduce you and tell you a little bit about some of the partners in our work to address these 3 areas of prevention, intervention, and response. Before we do that, I want to share with you some of the root causes. Our work has always been about a public health approach. And whenever you're trying to diagnose a disease, you want to find out what's causing that. We have to look at our root causes, because any efforts that we make can't just be Band-Aids. We can all say as a community, we want to see a 50% reduction in gun violence in a year. What we really need to see is a 50% reduction in gun violence year after year after year. And in order to do that, we have to have sustainable programs and things in place to make sure that that happens. So here are some of the root causes: poverty, lack of opportunity, intergenerational trauma, hopelessness. We keep these things in mind. Make sure we're always addressing a root cause. So in the field of prevention, we were able to receive funding from the state to create a youth and gang violence prevention team. Chris Roberts, who you see here on the left, and Jabari Webb on the right, are part of that team. Anthony West in the middle is part of our Virginia Cares program in the city. They do intensive case management with youth in our community who are at higher risk of gun violence and violence in general. They work with the youth and they work with their families to make sure that there is a strong support structure so that as they're being redirected to a more positive path, they have support to do that. They also created the Empathy Project, which was a project designed to bring together families who've experienced loss. You may have started seeing billboards around the community that identify some of those families. It was a collaborative effort with the Arts Commission. Doors were painted telling the story of the individuals whose lives were lost as the way for the family to experience healing and tell their story. And then there was a spoken word component by Brian Hancock that also told the story of that loved one. Those doors are actually on display in the municipal building in the main lobby. They also are getting ready to launch what is called GREAT, a gang resistance education and training program. This is in collaboration with our Roanoke City Public Schools. It's an in-school program with structured curriculum for elementary and middle school students. There will be 4 certified teachers. Teachers also include the Department of Juvenile Justice. And this will work with kids to address crime, bullying, drug abuse, and violence. When we did our community youth assessment 2 years ago, we heard from the youth that one of the contributors to violence among their peers was dating violence. Already seeing this in very young relationships. Hill Street Baptist Church has been an extraordinary partner in this work, and Darnell Woods is here today, and their pastor, Reverend Preston Tyler. I'll tell you, if you won't get something done, call Darnell. He'll create some magic. They did a number of community outreach programs, but one of the most extraordinary that they worked with Lucy Addison Middle School to create was what's called Mental Health Barbershop. And 2 Mondays a month, and Kendrick Golston, they work with kids. They offer free haircuts. First Impressions Barbershop cuts their hair. I believe one of the women's stylists is there too. But they work with them, they mentor them, they talk with them about their life, their lived experiences and what their struggles are. And it's been a profound effort that they've made that's really making a difference. And their hope is to expand this to another middle school in the community. We saw a very great need for gun lock distribution, and so we purchased 8,000 gun locks. We partnered with Roanoke City Public Schools to distribute those through every office of a public school, along with educational materials for families, not only in how to talk with their kids about guns and safe storage, but reasons why you shouldn't use them, to be aware of that. Because that program was so successful, we're going to be expanding that in the coming year and giving access to nonprofit organizations to distribute these gun locks as well. Groceries Not Guns. This is a gun buyback event. We're now in our 3rd year. Catherine Cable, Mike Heller are here from that program. In the course of 3 years, 308 guns have been bought back and destroyed, including 111 semi-automatic handguns, 191 shotguns. We've had close to 200 participants with over $56,000 in grocery cards distributed. We are seeing a significant part of our community appreciating this effort because, and for a variety of reasons, from someone who was having mental health crisis issues and they didn't want a gun on their person or in their home, to a family that was, a loved one was experiencing Alzheimer's and they didn't want, in that vulnerable state, for someone to make a wrong decision with a firearm. Chip of Roanoke Valley, Rachel Hopkins, is here today. Chip works directly with young families, and one of the magical things that Chip does is related to their home visits. And I cannot express enough how one-on-one small group interactions that build relationships with people can change their lives. It can change the trajectory of their path. And Chip does this so marvelously. They actually worked with families in their program who had directly experienced gun violence to not only get feedback from them, but to connect them with resources. And then on their own, reached out to area agencies to create a resource list that they could share with their families. And that resource list has been integral in helping us build our new What's Good Roanoke program, which I'll share more about in a few minutes. TAP, Total Action for Progress, and the Web Academy. Tommy Page is here today. This is an entrepreneurial-based program that works with youth to teach them not only soft and hard skills about how to be entrepreneurs, but how to have a mindset, whether they decide to become business owners or not. If they have a mindset that's focused on the bettering of their community and working with partners to collaborate in the betterment of that, that's going to make a difference. And they also teach kids how to do marketing. They also work with agencies on how to better reach youth in our community. The Youth Advocates Program is a healing-centered engagement program. We have a very robust trauma-informed care network in our city, and trauma addresses the immediate impact of trauma in people's lives. What healing-centered engagement does is it expands that to include, instead of saying what's wrong with me, it invites people to reflect on what's right with me and how can I keep getting better and healthier. Boys and Girls Club, they have a Check and Connect program with their Smart Moves program, and they have multiple partners. Rebecca Meadows is here today representing them. Presbyterian Community Center, they have a Pathways to Youth program, and they focus on providing direct counseling in partnership with Family Service of Roanoke Valley. Karen McNally is here today. This has made a profound difference in the lives of these kids as they're working through things that they see and they hear. In addition to the issue of gun violence in our community, we also have an opioid epidemic. And last year, the overdose deaths, and fentanyl is a leading contributor to overdose deaths. Overdose deaths last year in the city of Roanoke were 4 times the number of gun violence deaths. You don't hear that in the news. That's a reality. And so organizations like the Presbyterian Community Center are working with youth and their families to help them navigate some of those challenges while providing them the skills that they need. The Gainsboro Y, the Beacon program is an after-school program. Jonathan Pate is here today that does extraordinary work in mentoring and guiding and teaching youth to be their best selves and making sure that they stay connected with mentors and the resources they need. And then Neighbors United was an initiative that our commission created in collaboration with the United Way. Our Youth and Gang Violence Prevention team works with them. The Reset team works with them. They are focused in an area, a 5-block radius of Hanover Street, where we had the highest number of gun violence incidents in the last 2 years. And they started at a grassroots level, meeting with families and with individuals, and they continue to offer support through the years. So lastly, under prevention, we just launched a program called What's Good Roanoke. It's a one-stop shop for resources it's a holistic approach to connect youth and families who are experiencing violence in the community or looking for a different pathway forward to connect with resources in the community. So when you go to the website, and this is the front page of it, the home page, you'll find a list of activities that are currently going on in the city or coming up. You'll find a list of programs, and this list is meant to be interactive and always growing. So if you're an organization that is providing a service in the community, you can submit that and it will be added to our program listing. We have a video series. You'll see Milton Hardy, who's a member of Kiwanis. He was featured in one of those videos, telling the story about What's Good Roanoke. One of the best ways to change the narrative about who we are and who our city is to talk about what we do well. What's good Roanoke? You'll see this on bus wraps, highlighting and featuring some of our different organizations. We recently had a grandmother reach out to the website. She was concerned about her grandson not having an adult male mentor, and she was seeing some behavioral issues that were concerning to her. We immediately connected her with Chris Roberts and with Lloyd Merchant, and they have connected her and her grandson with people that they can work with in the community as a response to that. So that's just one of the ways that that program is making a difference. In terms of intervention, we have the rapid engagement and support in the event of trauma, the reset team. This is led by Lloyd Merchant, and it's part of our Roanoke Police Department. Captain Boswell, Chief Booth know this program well. They are out on these reset walks. Whenever there's an incident of trauma or gun violence in the community, the reset team goes out as soon as they can after that event to talk with neighbors, business owners, families, to connect them with resources, to check in with them. What we ultimately discover is, in addition to appreciation for reaching out and doing these walkthroughs, we hear about other issues in the city. My street light's out. I've got a blighted property next door. And so we have a growing team that includes our code enforcement team that's working to address those issues as well as we're made aware of them. TAP facilitates a gun violence emergency relocation project, and this allows us to work with families who may have experienced violence and may need to relocate, whether it's into another part of the city or out of state. So far, we've been able to help 8 families relocate. Star City Safe is our local government initiative that brings together opportunities for youth and families. This includes working in our libraries, our library-based programs, general services, and parks and rec. We also are just graduated our 6th cohort of young adults or young students, they're high school students, who go through a 6 to 8 week training with HR in the city to learn soft skills and hard skills, and then they're placed in jobs in city government departments. And then from there, they're able to go out into the workforce to continue their work. And mental health counseling, I cannot say enough about this, whether it's New Horizons, Family Service, Roanoke Valley, Mosaic Mental Health Counseling, Blue Ridge Behavioral Health. We worked really hard to eliminate barriers to access for mental health counseling. So through some grants, we've been able to provide at Jamestown Place and the new Envision Center at Lansdowne and the Housing Authority communities free counseling for all of the people who might need access to that. In terms of response, I mentioned to you about the work that FedUp does. They meet families almost immediately after an incident has occurred. They pray with them. They bring healing resources. They help pay for memorial services. They help coordinate those efforts. They do a couple of events throughout the year to raise awareness and prevent gun violence. We're very lucky today to have representatives from the brand new Carillion Violent Injury Recovery and Support Program, VERS, Valerie Couple, Victor, and Kristen. Kristen's on her 2nd day on the job, and Victor's in his 2nd week, maybe. This is an incredible program Because what it does is as soon as someone comes into the hospital, whether it's the emergency department or they're admitted to the hospital, this team is there to meet with them, to connect with them, to work through the healing process, to connect them with resources, and then follow up with them a year after the event. So this is an extraordinary effort that we're really grateful to have. And one of the things they're celebrating is that one survivor that they've recently been working with today, I believe, is attending his first day of classes at Virginia Western Community College. I cannot say enough about the collaboration we have with our Roanoke City Police Department and our Sheriff's Department. They are extraordinary. Not only have they been helpful in our Groceries Not Guns event, but their community engagement efforts. If you've not been to one of their community forums, I encourage you to go. They're continuing those on a monthly basis. So shout out to Captain Boswell for that work. And I really am grateful that you got to hear from Chief Booth last week. For our city is really exciting. And he also values the collaboration of all of our community partners. And that's absolutely critical to our ongoing work. Finally, our Commonwealth and our U.S. District Attorney to make sure that cases are closed by arrest and then prosecuted appropriately in court. Last year, I think as of end of December, 50% of our cases have been closed by arrest, and we hopefully those move forward so that work continues. On the horizon, a couple of things. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to expand our gun lock distribution program with a program called Lock In Safety, Unlock Hope. This is going to be in collaboration with the police department and with nonprofit partners. We also have We're also looking to create a trauma response team to work alongside the police department, fire, and EMS. And what I mean by this is a team of trained professionals who can be called to be on site immediately after a traumatic event occurs in the city. Not to do the work of the police, not to do the work of fire and EMS, but to provide support for the people who are experiencing that, whether it's a family, whether it's neighbors, whether it's onlookers. Similar in some degree to the Marcus Alert program, where a mental health provider goes out. We want to make sure this is almost like another mobile unit that helps address that trauma on the front end and then follow through on the tail end of that. And then we're excited, this is not up there, to support an effort that Delegate Rasul is working with Roanoke City Public Schools to do called Community Builders, which will be an intensive program to work with 8th grade students to address the root causes of gun violence at a much earlier age. And that those middle school years are absolutely critical in addressing that. And then finally, increasing our efforts to address violence interruption through conflict resolution. We've got to work together to find a way to get into, to work with people to pause when their emotions, their anger are amplified, and to help encourage them not to pick up a gun to resolve the conflict, but to hold out a hand, to reach out for support, to step away from, because that's going to help us reduce our incidence of gun violence in the community. So when we honor each other, when we grow relationships with deepening love and trust, when we invest in each other, and expand opportunities for growth, we will see a reduction in gun violence in our community, and our sense of safety will be manifested in powerful ways. So I think I actually have 20 seconds left for questions.
Stay after.
I'll stay after, so I'm here all week, so come see me. Thank you all.
Outstanding, Joe. Would you come back to the microphone just for a moment? The honorarium that we have for you today is to the organization you mentioned several times during your presentation, the Fed Up organization. certainly impressed you, and it certainly impresses us now. Here we go. Look at the camera. Joe, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And Rita Joyce sends her regrets, but she wants to thank you all for this honorarium as well.
So as you heard, Joe's going to stay. Please take advantage and come up to speak to him after the meeting is over. Before you do that, though, there are 2 cards that are being passed around. I need those to be sent to the front of the room now. Thank you. And next week, Bill Bestich is going to knock it out of the park again by introducing Molly Hunter from the Roanoke Neighborhood Services. And with that,